is a legend. She is probably one of the most efficient, like organized people that I know. And I'm really excited for you to hear what she has to say. She'll probably make you rethink the way that you do some of your social media, especially when it comes to LinkedIn. But right now I want to get into who she is and where she came from. So Rebecca, what was some of the things that you dreamt of being or doing when you were younger?
So for my childhood dream. So my childhood dream, I always wanted to be a lawyer. And I don't know, I think that the purpose of that, or the reason for that, was to be able to help people. I noticed that some people's voices just in general don't get heard, even if it's the right thing. So I guess from when I was a kid, that was something that I wanted to do, to make sure that I could help people and help people's voice, the right voice, be heard. Lawyer didn't happen, but
it's cool. Like, it's a different way to think of a lawyer, and it is what they do. But I love that perspective. So who are some of the people that you would say like strongly impacted your life when you were younger, like your family? Like, how did people impact you?
For sure. So when I was younger, we were poor. We were poor, like so poor. Not so poor, but I didn't, like, my clothes came from a consignment store. Was like exciting because usually it was like Salvation Army, or like I would get used clothes from people who would give it to us, like from the church. For a lot of when I was younger, my dad was a student, and we moved around a lot. We did move around a lot. My dad became a pastor, and he was always in front of the church, like always speaking, always, people would always look to him for advice or support. And both of my parents were very strict, very religious, right? And not that religion equals strict, but I think that the fact that my dad was a pastor and that he led a church, and also I should mention my mom, like my mom ran the house, my mom ran businesses, and those were the people that influenced my life the most. Those were the people that I saw. That I didn't decide to be a pastor.
Yeah.
I didn't decide to own a daycare, but I learned how to work hard because both of my parents worked very hard. Some of the things that I learned were what I learned, like I always want to be my own self. So for example, my dad being a pastor, like we couldn't be real. We had to be very fake. Mm-hmm. We had to be perfect. I think that kind of, like, both of my parents have influenced me significantly in different ways, for sure.
That's like a huge piece, that like feeling of having to be perfect. Yeah. Like, so how did that affect your journey, and when did you step out of trying to make people happy?
When did I stop trying to make people happy? I think it's actually something that we all do. We all try to be liked and try to make people happy. I think that the problem is that I always say what I want to say and stand up for myself. And I don't think that it was very long after, it was in my mid-teens, that I was like, some of this I don't agree with. So I'm gonna do what I agree with. And that's, I guess, everything that I've done until this point, is that I do what I think is the right thing. And I know that my brand, I know that I have to be authentic, and I know that I have to be real, but I know that I also have to be professional. And because I do digital marketing and I do communicate with people over very visible, like public displays, that I do have to represent a certain, not necessarily perfection, but I have to represent the brand that I want to be portrayed as, I guess, my own personal brand.
I think that's great. And I think it's interesting to me. Like, I would be curious to know, like, when did you start? What was the first thing that you like took a leap entrepreneurial in as your journey unfolded?
My first entrepreneurial leap. I didn't have any other businesses before my digital agency, but I always worked really hard. So I've always, prior to what I'm doing right now, I was in sales and marketing, And prior to that, when I was young, because we didn't have money, I had to do all of the fundraising for if I wanted to go on that cheerleading competition to another city, I had to do the fundraising for that.
Mhm.
So because of that, that made me value what I work for, what I get back out of what I work for. But also, I know that I have to do what it takes to be successful because nobody else can do it for you, really.
That resistance of not having everything handed to you and having to carve that path, that is why you're able to do a lot of the things you do now, I think. Like, that's amazing because that resistance is, if you want this, you have to work for it. And
Yeah,
you had to learn how to sell. To fundraise, you have to sell because you have to
I know.
sell the idea.
Some of the things that even when I was a kid, like I remember I can't imagine having to do that I was knocking on doors like there was no tomorrow, but I could see what I wanted ahead of me. And this was what was standing in my way. So I needed to do what it took to get to that point. So I think that's the way I've always been. Like, if there's something in the way, you just got to remove whatever barriers. So often that's money that you have to work towards. And yeah, it's definitely challenging sometimes with growing your business and having a team, but I think I've learned so far that I have what it takes to keep moving and take things out of the way that are barriers.
Love that. So, a lot of people have a different idea of failure. How would you define that in your life?
So, for failure, I would say failure is when you don't try. So, when it comes to the work that we do, like, it will get done. But when I'm on social media or doing lives or speaking or whatever, if you don't make yourself uncomfortable
Mhm.
and try, then you don't deserve to win.
Yeah.
You don't deserve to win. It's success happens when you make yourself uncomfortable. Because here's the thing, if you are uncomfortable doing something, maybe everybody's uncomfortable doing that same thing. What's going to differentiate you is if you still do it. You're uncomfortable with it and you still move forward and you still do it, because there's other people who won't.
Yeah.
They'll just be uncomfortable and they'll decide not to do it.
I love that. I love that piece about then maybe there's someone else that's uncomfortable. Because so many times we forget that we're all just humans and
Yeah.
we put people on pedestals or we look at them and think, oh, you're amazing. You can do all these things, but they're still scared every day to step out
Yeah.
and do it. I think when you're like right now, as you're in your journey, you've found your brand and you've found your voice, but like you still have those challenges. Like, talk about some of those, like the fears that you face.
I know, like so I've been trying to go live more frequently. And to start, like when you first start going live, it's really uncomfortable. Oh, it's not in the calendar. I'm not going to do it. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then you start to see other people who are just starting out. And I was actually there. I was actually that uncomfortable. I was actually nervous and just starting out. And the more times you do it, the better you get. So all of this stuff, especially the lives, I compare it to like boxing. I don't know if you watch boxing. I like boxing.
I've done a bit of it. Yeah.
Oh, you've done boxing?
Not like professionally, but I'm into it.
But have you sparred with someone?
Like, just like little things. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Besides the point. I get it.
Okay, so I love boxing. So here's the thing about boxing. And if you've ever been in a ring and even thrown a couple shots, like I've done it before, where you have the headgear on and just for not very long. But what happens is as soon as you're in the ring and you get punched, it's just everything disappears. All the knowledge, all the practice, all the everything that it's like, there's not a thought in my head except for the fact that now I want to punch this person back. I'm angry. I'm in this ring. I feel rage. I have all this emotion. So now what do I do? Yeah. But the thing is, if you've been training, It's just muscle memory. So just like professional boxers, you think that they can remember anything when they get into the ring and they have a stadium full of people watching them as they're fighting? They don't remember anything. They can't think. It's just their body moving the same way it always does. And if we, in turn, for our own selves, for my own self, the more I practice, the better I get. And the more it just comes and it's easier, and I don't have to think about things anymore. So yeah.
That's so good. Like those are like nuggets of gold. And I think there's probably some people watching like in different phases of their business and in stepping out. And no matter where you are, you're stepping out at some point. But
Yeah.
especially right now, especially with the pandemic and everything going social and having to show up on screen and all of that stuff, I think there's a lot of people that I would say their business is being held back because they're not taking that leap. That's so good. That's such good information for people to think like you just have to do it.
Big time. And don't think from the perspective of, oh my gosh, this is something so foreign to me. I don't know what I'm doing. Yes, you do. You've been doing this every day when people would come into your store. You are running the same business. You just have to do it a little different now. That's all. There's way more opportunity now, I think, for a lot of businesses than there was in the past. People were not okay with Zoom. People were not as okay with buying certain things online. Everything was different. Obviously, everything was different. And so I think being able to take the perspective of, no, this is just a different normal and I just have to adapt. So
yeah. I love that. One thing that there's two things that came to mind, but the first thing is I know you're an entrepreneur like through and through. And I think part of that is being able to pivot and being able to, like you say, when there's something that moves and you have to figure out a new angle. So what would you say to people that are feeling right now, okay, I'm here, I'm doing this, and all of a sudden this doesn't work? Like, how do they face that kind of resistance of that?
if something doesn't work,
Yeah.
if it's not working or they're not seeing the results that they need, it depends on the context. But what I would say is if someone is making the effort and doing the right things and it's not working, don't stop. Just do it harder. Do it more. If it's not working, make sure that you're doing the right things. Like, of course, make sure that what you're doing is in line, maybe even with other businesses that are successful now that in this new time. There's no harm in you looking at what is working for other people.
Yeah.
And trying some of the things that they're doing. We all do that. We learn and then we potentially mimic or not mimic. We want to do everything our own style and make sure it's our own brand. But that's how we learn something and we talk about it and that helps other people grow at the same time.
I love that. Okay, so what would you say? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that get stuck depending on their personality or their experience on this like idea of perfection. And they may not even realize it's perfection, but they're like, I can't do it until I have everything figured out.
I know.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know, because I have been that person. How do you get through that? Here's the thing. You can either wait for it to be perfect or you can get it out there and let other people give you feedback.
Love that.
So if you wanted something to be perfect, would you have someone proofread it? Probably.
Yeah.
Why not put it out there and have other people give you feedback? If they have a problem with it, especially if it's on social media, you can be darn sure that they're going to let you know. But the likelihood is that you're going to provide some value. Even if it's not perfect, you're still going to provide value to whoever is consuming the content, for sure.
Love it. Like, you do find your audience as you start speaking and sharing. And how do you feel about people that do give you, that just aren't on your team, that maybe are like, oh, this isn't?
The haters?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so popular, I have haters? That's amazing. I love that. You know what? The haters, those are not people that are ever going to buy from me. I don't really care about that, except that it like confirms that I'm doing a good job.
That's like, perspective is so huge.
Yeah.
And in everything you're talking about, it's like switching. Like you could look at it like this, or you could say, I need to keep trying more. You could look at it, I'm not doing something right, or you can say, oh, I'm doing something right. That's a huge common denominator for people that have been able to grow a brand is really knowing that, because it's authentic.
Exactly. And I think when you're trying to figure out your audience, figuring out, you have to understand that there are going to be people who don't buy from you. So who cares about those people? They will never buy from you. So figure out who your audience is. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a dog mom, I'm a curly hair girl. If you think about, if you even make a list of everything that you can relate to, maybe those are things that other people can relate to. And those people, maybe they'll be more interested in your content or what you have to say. And so if you can relate to your audience, who cares about the haters? Who cares about the haters? They're never going to spend money with you anyways. And even if they would, do you really want to do that?
I think that's the part people need to realize, is that you can spend so much time worrying about the people that may not like something, or the people that may, and forget about all the people that really love the things that you're doing. And it's funny how you can focus on, even in my career, you can focus on the one person that had something negative to say instead of everyone else that was like, no, this is great. So perspective again.
Congratulations. You figured out which audience persona is not your client. Perfect.
That's so good. So for you, like in your personal brand, because I believe that your personal brand just spills into whatever you do.
It should.
Who are the people that you want to serve, and who are the people that you feel like you want to help?
For my own self. So speaking about my personal brand, and I think any brand in general, based on what I've learned, people want to do business with other people who they know and trust. Even if you have a company, I have an agency, like people trust me. So being able to communicate my brand, my audience, like I really love helping female entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, even really successful salespeople who look to me for support and advice. And some people I don't even know about, and then they will say, oh, I tried this thing that you suggested and it worked. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I guess the other thing, I always know that just because you think that nobody watched or nobody paid attention, maybe somebody did and it helped them, and maybe they didn't tell you about it. So just always know that what you're doing can make a difference, even if you don't know that it is.
Yeah, I love that, because I think that often, sometimes even on social media, let's say you're scrolling through and you're like, oh, that person's so rad, they're so good, but you feel like they just already know that. So you're not always, oh, that was so good, because you're just like, oh, they hear it all the time. Would they really want to hear it from me? And so just being mindful of, again, your perspective, because you can think, oh, no one, liked my book, or no one, or they're just thinking, oh, it's good. What it's good. And it's the same thing. You have to get that right perspective in your mind, that they may not have told you. And I guess I would think you probably agree, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who likes it, because it's coming from you and it's what you're passionate about. Would you say?
What you have to say is going to speak to your audience. Like your audience is the only one that matters. Sure, it's great to talk to everybody, but realistically, you're going to be way more effective with people who would eventually want your products or services. I do think that there's certainly, it's hard with social media. Here's the thing. Think from the perspective that nobody sees you anywhere. So if you post on one platform and not another, like there could be a whole audience. There could be a whole audience that you're missing out. Maybe even those people are seeing some of your posts. I'm sure I see posts of people that I don't remember. So keep creating content and make sure that it's speaking to your audience, because the other thing that audience look for is consistency. And if you're talking about the same things, I'm familiar with what I'm used to seeing from you, and I'm more likely to engage and expect that almost from you.
That's so good. There's like the flip side of that. Would you say, as you're like taking new steps and you're trying to figure out, okay, because we grow and we evolve. And I think the
Yeah.
core of us is the same, but maybe we shift like the angle or whatever. And
Right.
so in that space, what would you say about finding your audience? And is it okay to, rather than say I have to figure it all out, you can try things and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Think about
As long as you are true to your brand, there are going to be people who are interested in what you have to say, and there's going to be people who are not interested in what you have to say. And so even if you adjust that brand, the same thing, there will be people that come with you. Maybe there will be people who aren't interested in you anymore, but then along the way you're going to get more of that side of whatever you're making changes. Improving is another thing. It's change, it's all uncomfortable. And so as long as it's not like I'm going to sell fishing rods when previously I did makeup, it's still going to be your audience. It's still going to be who you speak to and how you speak that's going to be interested in what you have to say.
Love it. So for you in your own business and as you're going, like when you talk about different places where you can show up, talk a bit about like different platforms and kind of the things that you do with your brand.
For sure. The different social platforms. So here's the thing with social media, with all social media. So all of the different social platforms, they have the option for you to pay for ads. So the only way that they can charge for ads is by being able to demonstrate or to show that you're going to get eyeballs. So basically, I'm paying for your eyeballs. So the goal with creating regular content is rewarding people who are posting engaging content. Because what engaging content does on a social media platform is it keeps those eyeballs on the social media platform so that the social platform can charge ad spend to show those eyeballs the ads. So engaging content gets rewarded because then the social platform can charge for ads. So the different social platforms that I use. So first of all, my fave, I love LinkedIn. So for me, LinkedIn is amazing. LinkedIn is mostly a B2B platform. So it does become a little more challenging if you're trying to do the work to consumers. But I use LinkedIn as a platform and I get leads and I'm able to do business through LinkedIn. Also, of course, there's Facebook. Instagram is really great for more organic traffic as well, for being able to communicate with people. Google My Business. So Google My Business is the map. So when you do a search, it's the local search that shows up. And you can actually post your social content there. People don't really look at social content there, but Google loves it. So it's important to be there. Also, Twitter and TikTok.
Okay.
So Twitter is just like a lot of work. So Twitter is, you have to be like back and forth. And then TikTok, I haven't figured out TikTok yet.
Yeah.
I was at like a craft store the other day and I opened TikTok, it opens full blast, like loud, full blast. It was a little bit embarrassing because I think that I'm over the appropriate age.
You're like, but I'm learning. I don't know. I feel like TikTok is, I've seen some all different ages use it.
I know.
At the end of the day, what I love is that all, like you were talking about the different things, like this is business to business, this is organic traffic. Like it's really about, again, what suits your brand and what you can use to help you grow. If you don't know something, go learn it or go hire someone. I know you help people to do that stuff.
Exactly. Like growing your brand and being able to communicate with people on social media. There's so much opportunity. It's crazy how people are. I see people that just post, and posting is great.
Yeah.
But posting is like standing on a ladder with a loud horn, just like yelling out your promo or about your business. Like social media needs to actually be a conversation. It needs to be a conversation. So posting something and engaging with people who might be your audience or sending DMs to people who might be your audience, that will get you a much better result than just posting does nothing. Maybe it can, but if you're actually engaging and having a conversation rather than just a one-way, hey, everybody, look at me, you're way more likely to get a response back from your potential audience.
Yeah. And it comes full circle, because if you don't know who you are, what your brand is, then you don't know who you're even trying to engage. It's really taking the time to
Yeah.
question who you are, and I think use those common threads, because even as you talked, you were like, I had to sell when I was a kid to raise fund, like all of those things have brought you to where you are right now. And so
Yeah.
I want people to be encouraged by, like, your journey doesn't have to look like anybody else.
Yeah.
It's your mindset.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
And the other thing, we stop our own selves from being successful. That's what happens. We have something in our mind that is preventing us from moving forward, from being successful some of the time. So for example, video content and live video is the best way for you to get attention on your social profile. What happens when you go live is everybody gets a notification that you're going live. So why wouldn't you take advantage of that opportunity? Oh my gosh. You know what? It's uncomfortable. Yeah. It's uncomfortable. But what happens when you do go live, you're going to be more likely to figure out who your audience is, because those eyeballs on your live video, those comments, those likes, those waves, those are the people who are already interested. Maybe they've been following you, maybe they have no idea.
Yeah.
But those are the audience personas that you want to go after, and making sure that you're not just like speaking out to nowhere. Like you need to engage with people on your social media. You can't just post something and hope that it goes wherever it needs to go.
That's so powerful. I did an interview with this guy, and I still haven't used it yet, but he said something that I loved, and it was just like learning to treat it like you would if someone was right in front of you. You're not just gonna put up like an emoji.
Yeah.
You'll actually have a conversation. So
yeah.
I think that's so good.
Ask a question. So if you're posting content and you are engaging with potentially your followers or connections, ask questions, see what the answers are.
So good. Where's the best place to find you? Where do people find you?
To find me. So of course I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is definitely where I'm on all the platforms. I try to go live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and YouTube at the same time when I do go live. Oh, and I also go live on Instagram. The only thing is Instagram is the easiest platform to go live on, but it doesn't integrate with live streaming apps.
Yes.
But that's okay. So when I do go live, I go live on those 4 platforms mostly.
Love it.
So for Instagram, for example, my handle is Cramer Says, and then my agency is Loud Of Course. Of Course. And then on the other platforms, you could just look up my name, and hopefully I'm the first person that shows up. Hopefully.
Well, we'll make sure. Honestly, thank you so much. That was so amazing. And I hope that all of you guys got more excited about social media and stepping out and going live and doing the thing. Going live and just doing it and ripping that Band-Aid off. So I know for those of you that have decided to stay along for this journey, keep these recordings, put in a little money towards it, Rebecca's going to have some amazing tips to give you. So I'm excited for you to get that bonus as well. So thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.